Good evening. Tonight was the second of the Dracula movies in the Universal Classic Monsters collection, Dracula's Daughter, which would have made it a perfect night for the other movie that we watched to be Hotel Transylvania. But I was fooled, and it wasn't actually available. So we substituted a couple of things. First was Dracula, the Steve Moffat version of Dracula, which is not this, but I like holding things up. The Steve Moffat version of Dracula, just the first third of it. It's in three 90-minute episodes, and I wasn't going to watch it because I'm not a fan of Steve Moffat. But despite the things about Stephen Moffat that I don't like, I thought it was interesting, and we are going to watch the other two episodes at some point. But happy accident. Best of a disappointing situation. We will watch Hotel Transylvania next Wednesday when it becomes available, and we look forward to it. And there is another person here. It's not just me. When I say we, it's not a royal we. It's not me and the voices. There's another person here who lives with me and watches these things with me. And so that was surprisingly good. We also watch, when we have to fill a little bit of time, a Treehouse of Horror episode from The Simpsons. So we watched season 4, which has the, what's the defining one? There's a zombie one, and the Krusty doll, the episode with the Krusty doll that comes to life. And tomorrow night we're watching Child's Play, the remake of Child's Play, because that actually is available. And that's always fun. The Simpsons are always fun. And since we had even a little bit more time, we watched a little documentary about the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland and Disney World, and also a 9-minute cartoon where Mickey, Goofy, and Donald Duck chase ghosts around. So that was fun. But the main event was Dracula's Daughter. And it actually picks up right after this movie ends, because part of the conceit is that, one, the police find Van Helsing having recently, and it is Edward Van Sloan again. Edward? Just making sure. Edward Van Sloan. Again, as Van Helsing, not just a Van Helsing type. And they find him having killed Dracula and maybe a few others, and they accuse him of murder. And so part of the plot has to do with him saying, no, it was a vampire. Vampires are real. And then the other part of the plot is Dracula's daughter, and I never was quite clear. She referred to herself as Dracula's daughter. I wasn't sure if she was a Dracula or if she was just one of his, that he made a vampire and is therefore a daughter. But I guess those are wives. I wasn't clear on that. But the movie was interesting. It was perhaps the earliest filmed "I'm not sure I want to be a vampire anymore" story. The idea is that the evil Dracula is gone, and therefore she can be her own person, and she wants to be just a regular person, but she's a vampire. And she can't escape her fate as a vampire. And if I hadn't known any better, I would have thought it's Meryl Streep. This is Meryl Streep's first movie. But Meryl Streep, I don't think, was born in 1936. It is Gloria Holden, and if you look her up, and one day I'll be good enough at video editing to make a picture pop up here or here of Gloria Holden, she looks exactly like Meryl Streep, and she sounds a lot like Meryl Streep in her earlier movies. So I can be forgiven for thinking, is that Meryl Streep? Is that related to Meryl Streep? She's not even related that I could find to Meryl Streep. I didn't look that hard. But she was great. It was interesting. It was listed as being, and it supposedly was based on Dracula's Guest, which is the excised chapter that appears in this Treasury of Terror and the Supernatural. Didn't have much in common with that. However, it is also, and it had more in common with another story in here that is purportedly the inspiration, and that story. Well, I won't look it up because there's no picture anyway. But it's called Carmilla. It is a 1872, I think, novella about a woman vampire, and there were some similarities. I'm not as familiar with it as I am with the novel Dracula, the novel Frankenstein, the novel Phantom of the Opera, to make definitive things of, oh, it did this with it, it did that. But I recognized it, and I also read that it was somewhat of an inspiration. So that was interesting. Now, the reason I read it at all, I even found it in here, was because of the sequel to this book, which is kind of a Dracula's Daughter, by Raymond T. McNally. This one was called Dracula Was a Woman. This one is In Search of Dracula, but the other one was called Dracula Was a Woman, about the Blood Countess Elizabeth Bathory, and how she, well, this guy says she was the actual inspiration, not Vlad the Impaler, but she was the actual inspiration for the character Dracula, which probably she wasn't. Probably Bram Stoker was aware of her, but Dracula is Vlad the Impaler, who actually was called Dracula on some occasions, which is what this book is about. And so I'm not a fan of the writer, but I am a fan of the history. And I finished this book today, and it just happened to be the day watching Dracula's Daughter. But the thing is, since Carmilla came out 25-ish years before Dracula, in many ways, Dracula is Carmilla's son, because Stoker was aware of the Carmilla. He had probably read Carmilla. So, whereas Dracula's Daughter, the movie, was based on Carmilla, Dracula, the book, which inspired Dracula, the movie, was not based on Carmilla, but may have taken some inspiration from it. Let's see, Edward Van Sloan and Gloria Holden. It was another fun, inspired by Carmilla and other things, but mostly made up like Werewolf of London movie. The second of these that I haven't seen, and it was interesting how it all came together. Toward the end, they go back to Transylvania, and you see the villagers hopefully doing an accurate representation of what Romanian villagers would have done as an evening kind of festival. And then one of them notices that there's a light on at the castle, and they apparently know that Dracula had a daughter, and they say she's back, and they get all panicky, and that was interesting. That touch was interesting. So getting into the period where they're exploring what they can do with their toys, Universal Pictures is, we've got these fun things, these fun characters. We're going to see what we can do, how we can stretch them. I look forward to seeing more of that. I read a passage at the chapter, a wonderful likeness, I think, and it'll be in a box up here or up here. That is a chapter from Carmilla, and Carmilla is quite short, and it's also not Dracula. So if you're looking for something to read that is Halloween flavored, and you've read Dracula too many times or seen too many movies of Dracula, read Carmilla. You could probably get it in Treasury or as its own book. I don't know. I have it in here, and I just happened to have it in here when I was reading about it, and I thought, oh well, I'll just read it, and I look forward to reading it again. But you can watch me read a chapter of it if you'd like a taste. And tomorrow is Child's Play remake, and also Son of Frankenstein, I think. Let me just check on that. Son of Frankenstein. So, the first Frankenstein movie that I'm not yet familiar with. And yes, this is fun. They continue to be good. I think I watched for the first time. It doesn't say on the DVD, at least not in any print that I can read, what the aspect ratio should be. So, when I was playing last night we watched The Simpsons season 3 Treehouse of Horror, but watched it on DVD because we actually have it on DVD, and I changed the aspect ratio to the box, which is what The Simpsons used to be drawn in, and so to make it not warped. And I didn't change it back. So tonight we started the movie, and I guess we watched last night's movie this way too, and it was in that aspect ratio, and it looked fine. And I thought, oh, well, I guess, and then I looked it up, and I think all of these movies are in that aspect ratio, not in widescreen, which we've been watching them in. So I think last night and tonight were the first time we watched the movies in the aspect ratio that they are supposed to be in, and so they were not warped. But whatever. Have a lovely midnight.